Welcome to the Whole Foods Masterclass with Caramia Wellness. My name is Kara Joseph, and I am a Whole Foods nutritionist. I love this Ayurvedic proverb: if diet is wrong, medication is of no use. If diet is correct, medication is of no need. And I am going to show you the foods to be eating to make this proverb true. What exactly is a whole foods diet? So whole foods are foods in their natural state. They're things like beef, chicken, fish, eggs, beans, and any kind of fruits and vegetables in their original state. By sticking with a whole foods diet, you're going to see some amazing progress in your health. Things like better emotional control and stability, better sleep patterns, better digestive and bowel patterns, and you're going to lose some weight as well. Okay, your roadmap for the next 6 weeks. Week number 1, that's this week, we're going to focus on sugar and why you want to eliminate that from your diet. We're also going to talk about finding your motivation. What's motivating you to make these changes? Week number 2, we're going to be talking about carbohydrates. What are refined carbohydrates? What are better alternatives? And adding more fruits and vegetables into your diet. Week number 3, we're going to be talking about the hidden poisons that are in your food chain. Stuff that you don't even realize that you're eating, and how to clean that up and get it out of your diet. Week number 4, we're going to talk about hydration and everybody's favorite gluten-free baking. Week number 5, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of protein and fats. And the last one, food combining and food sensitivities. Okay, a whole foods diet. So there's 2 reasons why you want to be on a whole foods diet. The first one is nutrients. So every second of every day, your body is regenerating the cells that have died off. Every part of you is slowly dying off, and then you're making new cells to replace them. So every 7 years, you create a whole new body, which is really quite amazing. Think about if you stuck with this for the next 7 years, how different your health would be and how different you would look. If I made some cookies today and I forgot to put in the sugar, those cookies would look like cookies, but they wouldn't be very functional. They would taste horrible and I wouldn't want to eat them. Your body is the same way. If I'm not putting in the right kind of nutrients, then my body, it looks like me, but it's not functioning the way it should. And I start to see a lot of dysfunction in my body, and I don't feel so good. The second reason why you want to be on a whole foods diet is that not all nutrients are created equal. So the nutrients that are in whole foods, like oranges and mushrooms and avocados, come packaged as a unit with other nutrients that your body recognizes what it is and can absorb and utilize it for what it needs to utilize it for. In packaged foods, you'll see them fortified with whatever. Vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin K. Typically, you see this on things like staples like cereal, bread, milk. The reason why is because the processing of those foods completely strips them of any kind of nutritional value. And to have them on the shelf with any kind of nutrition in them, they have to literally put the nutrition back into the food so they can label it as nutritious. But the types of nutrients that they're putting back into the food are synthetic and isolate nutrients. What on earth does this mean? So synthetics are things that are made in a lab, and isolates are things that were once natural, but they isolate out just a very small part of that and call it a nutrient. Why is this important? Synthetics and isolates, your body does not understand what they are, and it actually recognizes it as something foreign and doesn't use it for what you really want it to use it for, which is building cells. The only thing that it's going to recognize is a nutrient in its whole organic form, and that's from Whole Foods. Okay, so those cookies that didn't taste very good, remember your body's the same way. If you're not getting the nutrients that you need, you're going to start seeing dysfunction. And symptoms of the dysfunction are things like constipation, headaches, poor sleep, loss of hair, moodiness, poor nail growth, aches and pains, PMS, IBS, bad breath, mental fog, poor healing, getting sick easily, fatigue. And these are all really vague symptoms that you can't pinpoint a disease on. So often I see people that have gone to the doctor with multiple symptoms of dysfunction, but they go to their doctor with these complaints, and either you get a medication to cover up these symptoms or force your body to act in a certain way, but it doesn't really address the underlying problem, which is the lack of nutrients to create proper function in the first place. And they don't have a diagnosis for you because there aren't enough symptoms yet, and you're not bad off enough to be able to really put a disease label on whatever you have. But this goes on for decades in your life, and eventually there will be some kind of disease state that you will end up in. So we want to avoid that and start feeding our body nutrients so that you don't get to that point in the first place. Okay, so you got a piece of paper with your packet. This is called a system survey. I want you to get it out. If you haven't filled it out at the end of class tonight. You are not going to end up answering every single question. Just answer the ones that are pertinent to you. If you get whatever symptom it is infrequently, so maybe once a month, every other week, it's a 1. If you get it every so often, it's a 2, maybe every week it happens, it's a 2. If it's every day, it's a 3. If it never happens, it's not something that occurs to you, skip that question and move on to the next one. At the end, when you're done, I want you to total up your raw score. So you're going to give yourself 1 point for anything that you answered with a 1, 2 points for anything that you answered with a 2, and 3 points for anything that you answered with a 3. Total up your total score and see what it is. At the end of 6 weeks, we're going to do this again, and hopefully your total score will have gone down. Many people want to know what the groups are. The groups are associated with different body systems. Things like your nervous system, or your digestive system, or your endocrine system. And I use that when people come to see me in the office to really be able to pinpoint specific nutrients to the body system that is having the most trouble. But for this class, we're just going to talk about the raw score. Okay, so getting nutrients into your body is super important, but eliminating things called stressors is equally as important. So there's 5 categories of stressors. The first category are foods that create imbalance within your body. So I think about sugar. Sugar is a stressor. It creates inflammation. It creates high blood sugars that affect almost every part of you. It creates systemic inflammation. It creates havoc with your thyroid and your endocrine system. It depresses your immune system. And we're going to talk about sugar in detail later on, but just know right now that is a great example of a food stressor, a type of food that causes stress on the body. So the other categories of stressors would be heavy metals. Heavy metals create stress on the body. Chemicals. Chemicals definitely don't belong in the body and cause stress on the body and cause that dysfunction to start to happen. Infections. So many of us have infective processes going on in our body at low levels, but they're affecting how our body is functioning. And you want to address those. And then one more thing that we address in the office are scars. That's not something that we're going to address here in class, but that would be considered the last and 5th category of a stressor. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the sugar quiz. So again, this came in your packet, and we're just going to go through the questions and you're going to answer true or false to each question. I do not eat refined sugar every day. So those are sweets, obvious sugar like sugar in your coffee. I can go for more than a day without eating some type of sugar containing food. Okay? I never have cravings for sugar, coffee, chocolate, peanut butter, or alcohol. So peanut butter is an interesting one. So most people say, well, why would peanut butter be in there? A lot of peanut butters have sugar in them. So that's the first reason. And then peanuts are very high in carbohydrates. So if you're craving peanut butter all the time, it's actually the carbohydrate in there that you're craving. I've never hidden candy or other sweets around my home in order to find and eat them later. Guilty of that one. I can stop after eating one piece of candy or one bite of pastry. There are times when I have no sugar of any kind in my home. I can go for 3 or more hours without eating and not experience the shakes, fatigue, perspiration, irritability, depression, or anxiety. So if you're on a whole foods diet, your blood sugar is normalized throughout the day, and you can actually go for a very long time without eating and without having any kind of symptoms from that. Getting things like the shakes, depression, anxiety from not eating after several hours is not normal. And that comes because your blood sugar is going up and down. So it spikes because you're eating something that has a lot of carbohydrates, and then it drops way down because of the insulin response. It kind of overshoots that blood sugar and it drops it way down. And then you're looking for more energy. So you're going to start seeking out those carbohydrates again, and your blood sugar is just going up and down all day. And that's what's going to happen. Okay, I can have candy and other sweets in my home and not eat them. I do not eat something sweet after each meal. I rarely drink coffee and eat donuts or sweet rolls for breakfast. So the big thing here is the and. So if you're doing both coffee and donuts, then that would be a false. Okay, I can go for more than an hour after waking up in the morning without eating. I can go from one day to the next without drinking a sweetened soft drink. So if you answered false to any 4 or more of these questions, then you definitely have a serious problem with sugar. And I'm so glad you're here, because that's what we're going to talk about eliminating next. Okay, so why do you want to eliminate sugar from your diet? Most of us grew up with sugar as a reward for everything. Sugar is on every single holiday. That's like the big ticket item for birthdays or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it is. Sugar is always going to be a part of that. And it's so hard to wrap our brains around the fact that sugar is really poison to our bodies. And if, let's say, you just leave the holidays alone and enjoy sugar during the holidays, but the rest of the year you never eat sugar, you would be doing yourself a great service. So first of all, sugar increases overall inflammation in the body. That is not normal. And if you're eating large amounts of sugar throughout the day, that creates inflammation all the time and eventually creates dysfunction and disease. Depresses the immune system. So the sugar will depress your immune system for several hours. So if you're eating a bagel that turns to sugar in your body in the morning for breakfast, that actually sets you up for craving sugar for the rest of the day. Whether it's carbohydrates or straight sugar, it doesn't really make a difference. So let's say the afternoon comes and you have a sandwich with a lot of bread. More sugar, more depression of your immune system. And then nighttime comes, you have pasta and maybe some ice cream afterwards. Again, you're depressing your immune system because of the sugar that you're eating, and it only takes a teaspoon of sugar to do this. So that's really significant, and especially in today's day and age, you don't want to have a depressed immune system. Okay, slows digestion. It basically puts your digestive tract to sleep. creating gas. It also creates inflammation within the colon, bloating, constipation, IBS. None of these things are any fun, and we could all live without them. It feeds cancer cells. I'm going to read that one more time. It feeds cancer cells. We all have some level of cancer cells in us. If you want to give a match to cancer and ignite it, eat sugar. Okay, creates fat deposits in your liver. It raises your blood sugar, places the extra glucose into your liver, and creates a fatty liver. And so many people have this problem. Decreases your energy. Who doesn't want more energy? And depletes the body of minerals, which affects your mood and thyroid function, just to name a few. So forms of sugar, this can be really confusing. Cane sugar is that straight granulated sugar that we put in our coffee and we bake with. Natural sugar like honey, maple syrup, and agave nectar are all concentrated forms of more sugar. Fruit sugar is the sugar that you get in things like fruit. So apples, pears, dates. Dried fruit you want to be careful with, because if you think about a prune, dried plums, those are, you're eating a whole one of them that has been condensed down. Apricots are another one. If you ate a hydrated apricot, you probably would eat maybe one or two. If you eat dehydrated apricots, you're eating, maybe 10 or 12. And that's a lot of fruit sugar at one time. So you have to be careful with dried fruits, but whole fruits in their hydrated normal form, it should not be an issue. It's carbohydrates. We're going to talk about that next week. That will also turn into sugar in your body. But this week we are focusing primarily on the cane sugar and then natural sugars. So back to natural sugars. Natural sugar is a tricky one because it's advertised as something that's healthy, a health food. And certainly if you're having very small amounts of, let's say, raw honey in your tea once a week, okay, I'll buy that. But if you're having honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, you're baking with this stuff, you're adding it to your coffee or tea every single day, you got to realize that this is a condensed form of sugar, and it works exactly like granulated sugar would. Maple syrup, for example, you take maple sap out of the tree. You need 50 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. That's super condensed. It's been stripped of all of its nutrients by the time it's been processed, and it's just straight up sugar. So we're going to try to avoid cane sugar and natural sugars for this coming week. All right, how on earth are you going to do this? It just seems like a daunting task, and it really is. And the first thing to realize is that sugar is so addictive because it works on the morphine receptors in your brain, and it creates addictive behavior. If you have kids or you're around kids ever, Easter time, you give them some candy like jelly beans, that's straight sugar, they just want more of it. And the next day they'll be seeking it out. If you take it away from them for a week and it's just not around, it's not available, tell them to go get an orange or something, they suddenly don't crave it and they don't want it anymore. So step number 1, commit to eliminating sugar from your diet completely this week. Cut it out. Okay. Step number 2, substituting the sugar that you're eating with something else that is equally delicious. That is the most important key to this. This is not about depriving yourself or eating gross food. It's about just eating better food that's also delicious. So at the end of class tonight, we are going to send you an email with different recipes for desserts that don't use straight sugar. You can also use other things that you can buy straight in the market without using a recipe. So I love dates rolled in coconut. You can get these at your local food co-op. Sometimes you can find them at a local grocery store. These are just little pieces of yummy, sweet goodness, and you don't have to do anything with them. You just eat them. You can eat plain dates, another super sweet, delicious snack Dried fruit. Again, be careful of dates and dried fruit. You don't want to be eating 10 or 12 at a time, but certainly a couple to curb that sweet tooth is just fine. All right, the no sugar desserts we already talked about. And then there's a few items on the market. So Delicious no sugar ice cream and Lily chocolate. These are my two favorites right now. They use xylitol. Lily chocolate sometimes uses a xylitol stevia blend. Make sure that you check their ingredient labels because sometimes they use coconut sugar, sometimes they're using xylitol and stevia, or just straight xylitol. Either way, these are both really delicious substitutions to the real sugar stuff and taste pretty close to what you were eating before. It's a really great bridge to getting off sugar altogether. The only thing that you want to be careful of is you don't want to be eating large amounts of this because it can cause GI distress and where it's sourced from. So we're going to talk about that in the next slide. And definitely no artificial sweeteners. Okay, sugar in your coffee. Coffee is such a ritualistic thing for so many people, as well as tea. So if you're a tea drinker, this goes for you as well. If you're using sugar in either one of those drinks, or you're a soda drinker, that could probably go into this category too. I want you to cut down on the sugar that you're putting in those drinks by 1/4. So if you're a soda drinker, just drink half the can and be done with it, and then move on to something else. Reduce the sugar that you're putting in your coffee or tea by 1/4 every single week. If that's too much and it's not sweet enough for you, add a little bit more sugar in until you get it just right. As long as you've eliminated some of the sugar every single week, just keep ratcheting it down and eventually you'll be off the sugar with your coffee or tea altogether. The other thing that you can do is you can use xylitol. So xylitol is a sugar alcohol. It doesn't have a significant impact on your blood sugar, which is great. The one thing that you do want to understand though is that sourcing of xylitol is important, and then you don't want to use a lot of it because of that GI distress. So if you use a little bit in your coffee in the morning, that's fine. The best kind of xylitol to buy is US sourced birch derived xylitol. And you can find that typically at Amazon or your local food co-op. Just make sure that you look at where the source is from. Okay, the step number 3, liquid gymnema is amazing stuff. And I love this for those people that are really addicted to sugar and have just gotten into a really bad habit. Coming off the holidays, so many of us find us in this category where, before you know it, you just have a couple cookies at a party and then you're eating it every day. So to get off this habit, I love to use liquid gymnema. So gymnema is an herb. You can buy this at our office. I think it's $10. It's very inexpensive. And you use it for a week, and by the end of the week, if you haven't had any sugar, you don't need it anymore because you're not going to have those cravings anymore. So let's say it's Halloween night and you have a big bowl of candy and you don't want to eat any. You're going to take that liquid gymnema, you're going to put a couple drops at the end of your tongue, and it's going to anesthetize the sweet taste buds on your tongue for several hours. This gives you the opportunity to find something else to eat that's not sugar-based and still satisfy your sweet tooth. You can grab a banana, grab an orange, grab one of those no sugar desserts maybe that you made, a handful of pretzels even, something else besides the sugar. You do that for a week. Before you know it, you're back on track and off the sugar. So if you need a bottle of this, you can send us an email or contact us at the office and we'd be more than happy to hook you up. Okay, step number 4, remove the sugar from your diet altogether. That means cleansing your house of sugar. I know this sounds super radical, but after you do it, you will feel so empowered. Get the trash bin tonight, go through your pantry, collect all those cookies, candies, whatever you have stowed away, and throw it out. Tie up the trash bag and bring it out to the trash tonight. If you have somebody in your house that isn't going along with you on this one, Then the other option is to get a big plastic bin, one of those plastic totes you buy at the hardware store, and you want to fill it with all the stuff that you're trying to avoid. So all that candy and cookies and whatever else, put it in the bin and put the bin somewhere that you don't see it. So don't leave it in your food pantry where you're going to see it all the time. Put it in a coat closet, put it in your basement, put it in a spare bedroom, somewhere, and let those people that are still eating the candy and stuff, let them know where it is. The candy bin is wherever I put it. You can go and enjoy it. I just don't want to be part of it. Okay, let's find your motivation and really what's driving you to do this. And this is a really important part of tonight's talk because this is your driver. This is what's going to move you forward. So I want you to focus on your motivation. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide about really what's motivating you to do this. And then remove any negative self-talk. If you listen to what your mind is telling you all the time, that's self-talk. And if you hear a lot of, I can't, I never, that's too hard, I'll never do this, turn it around. I did this. I can do this. I will do this. Even if you mess up, let's say this week you get 3 days in and you find yourself eating a box of cookies. Don't let that derail your whole program. Okay, for the last 3 days you didn't have sugar. Celebrate that. Forget about the misstep and move forward. Just be positive and kind to yourself. Okay, what is motivating you to do this program, to start eating healthier? So what do you intend to accomplish by changing your diet? I want you to get out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to write this down. What are you intending to do? When you started this class tonight, what were you dreaming about? Were you dreaming about losing 5 or 10 pounds? Were you thinking about maybe losing 50 pounds? Were you thinking about having better emotional stability so that you can not be depressed or have a better relationship with your spouse? Were you hoping that you would have better sleep patterns or that you wouldn't have to go on the diabetes medication? Whatever it might be, put down what your goal is for this next 6 weeks. Okay, the next one, how will your life change if you accomplish your goal? Will you have a better relationship with your partner? Will you be healthy enough not to be on your diabetes medication? Whatever it is, write down how your life would change. And then what motivates you to change? This may be the same as question number 2. If it is, then you can leave it blank, but it might be a little bit different. So this is really the deeper meaning of why you're seeking out your goal. So your goal might be, I want to lose 10 pounds, but your real motivator for doing that is I want to play with my grandkids. Your goal might be, I want to have better emotional stability, but your driver is that you want to have a better relationship with your spouse. Your goal might be, I want to sleep better at night, but your driver might be, I want to be more productive during the day and be able to clean my house on a weekly basis. Okay, so now that you've done that, get a fresh sheet of paper and you're going to write this down. I intend to stick to this eating program to put in your goal. And I will be able to put in your deeper motivation. Play with my grandkids or whatever it is. So your goal and then your motivator. And put this up, you can put this up in multiple places. Put it on your fridge, put it in your car, put it on your mirror, and really focus on this. And then focus on it when you go to bed at night. Like how well did I do? Am I getting closer to that goal? What are the positive changes that I've made? So often we focus on the negatives. Maybe it was to have better emotional stability and you did really great until the end of the day and then you lost it. We're all human, move forward. You've made it all day long. So that's a goal, that's a win. So focus only on your wins and move past setbacks. All right, here is your homework for this week. You're going to cut out the sugar completely. If you only make it a couple days and you fall off the wagon, the key is get back on. Write down what you eat. So again, in your packet, you got a diet log. You can print those out and use those, or you can just use a piece of paper. I want you to record everything that you're eating. It doesn't need to be measured. It just needs to be a trend of what you're eating. Chocolate cake for breakfast, a salad for lunch, and steak and French fries for dinner. Whatever it is, just write it down and be honest. Only you are seeing this, so the more honest you are with yourself, the more success you will have. Okay, start exercising at least 15 minutes every day. There are no excuses not to do this. 15 minutes is not a lot of time. You do not need to change your clothes, get a gym membership. You just need to move your body. Do yoga, take a walk with your spouse, walk the dog, walk up and down your stairs, whatever it is for 15 minutes. Okay, the last thing is track your progress. This is really important. So there's two ways you can do this. My favorite is using an app called Streaks. You can get it on your iPhone or your Android. Streaks will let you put down your goal, and then you can track at the end of every day, did I accomplish my goal? If you did, you put a little check mark on that day, and then you can go back at the end of the week or the month and say, okay, how many days in a row did I do what I intended to do? Or you can just use a piece of paper, but I really like Streaks because it's super easy. Most of us have our phones with us a lot of the time, so you can just tap on your phone, get that right in there, and start tracking what you're doing. This is really important because so often I see clients get so frustrated because they say, I've been really working hard and I've been really, really good. But when you look at the actual time that they were good versus not so good, it's not enough to make the change. So let's say this week, your intention is to work out every single day for 15 minutes. And at the end of the week, not much has happened. You're not really feeling much different. And you're saying, gosh, I've been really working out every day, But then when you go back and you look on either the app or your piece of paper, maybe you fell short. Maybe you only did it 2 out of the 7 days this week. It's not enough to see the change yet. You made progress, so focus on that. That's great. You got 2 days in. Next week, get 4 days in. And just keep moving forward until you do it every single day. So track that progress. That's super important. Your body is amazing. Treat it with love, cut the sugar out, and start to move your body. And I'll see you in the next video series on carbohydrate.